Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I'm here to talk about the latest episode of Superman and Lois. It was called Holding the Wrench. I thought this was a really good episode. Let me tell you what my thoughts were as I was watching it. The first thing that I was taken aback by was the fact that Lois apparently has a therapist. So that's a new thing. They never depicted that before that I'm aware of in any Superman media. So we have to see now if it's an element of the show that continues. They used it for this one episode because there was a traumatic event I'm going to talk about, but they could certainly keep it going if they chose to. I wonder if they will. Not sure it would be good if they did, but anyway, we'll see what happens with that. Now, at the end of the last episode, John Henry Irons was taken into custody, and somehow his RV ended up at the Kent farm. Not sure how the Kents were able to get custody of his RV, but they did. And as such, Lois has been investigating John Henry Irons by venturing into the RV and snooping around. Now, my question is this just a regular old modified RV, or did he somehow bring this with him from another Earth? And by that I mean, is it his ship only transmogrified, as they say, or transformed, in case I'm not using that word correctly, into an RV, a la a TARDIS or John's ship car thing on Supergirl? They didn't say. I'm not sure it matters, but it was a thought that I had. Anyway, from there we go to the home of Lana Lang, or whatever her married name is. And again, I'm asking, why do we care about her family? Like, okay, on a show like Desperate Housewives, they're going to bounce around from household to household and show you what's going on with the different families in the show. Whether it's just a couple that's a family, whether it's a couple with kids, whether it's a woman living with just her kid and no partner, they're going to do that, okay? It's an ensemble cast, and the story of the show involves all those people and how they interact and what's going on in their individual lives that causes them to interact with the other people the way that they do. And I suppose you could do that with any show, but if you go back and look at the Superman show from the 1950s, that's not what they did. Now, of course, that was 1950s and this is the 2020s, but it's still a superhero show. Why do we care about these other characters' home lives? Like, okay, I'm cool with Lana being a character on the show and like a supporting character on the show. Why do I have to know what's going on with her family? Like, I don't know. Maybe as it goes on, we're going to see that her character develops a certain way and that it has to do with, or that it came about because of stuff that she dealt with her family over the course of the season. I don't know. I just don't know why. It doesn't seem like that really right now. Like what they're showing is anything but filler in the episode and just something to do with characters other than Clark and Lois. So I don't know. I certainly don't think it's written badly. It's not something I wouldn't watch, you know, if it were called for on a show like Desperate Housewives. I was a fan of Desperate Housewives. This is Superman. I want to see Superman and Clark and Lois and the bad guys. I don't care about Lana's family. She's nice to look at, the actress that plays Lana. She's a good actress. She does well in the part. I don't care. Stop showing me that. Anyway, it isn't long before we see Jordan, and he seems good. Like whatever problem he was having the week before with massive headaches from just hearing normal things, it seems to be gone. Pretty much gone. Just, he's normal. That was weird. Maybe it'll come to be that no, he actually isn't, and it'll be a thing that recurs and goes away and recurs and goes away. I don't know, but so far, looks like he's rid of it. But moving along, we find out that John Henry Irons on this Earth, the Earth that Clark didn't turn evil on, is actually dead. So there isn't a counterpart on this Earth for John Henry Irons anymore. He's deceased. So that's something we learn. Speaking of John, then there's a scene where he's talking with Superman because they're trying to get information out of him in lockup. And he keeps saying, you know, I'm not going to let you do it again. You took everything from me. You. And it's like, John, wasn't him. Duh. was a different guy, you know? So what are you talking about? Just kind of dumb. I mean, I can see where you think, okay, it's you in the sense that it's the same person with, in terms of their psychological makeup, at least up into a point of divergence. And you could say you in that sense, but it wasn't him. That's like saying somebody is responsible for what their twin did in real life. Anyway, Lois doesn't really think that this whole thing about holding him prisoner, John, and interrogating him and stuff is necessarily what they should be doing. She kind of seems to think that they should lean in with John, make him an ally, not as subterfuge, but in other words, as a way of, okay, let's welcome him into the fold and treat him decently and develop a relationship with him. And it'll be beneficial to both of us. He'll be getting our help in pursuing his agenda of making sure that the Kryptonians or whatever don't destroy the planet. And we'll be getting help from him in doing the same thing because he's been through it. So that's sort of her approach. And that's the kind of approach I favor myself when dealing with issues. When the Kryptonians are going wild, you have to leave. No, you make, if you have even a semi-common goal with someone, maybe you don't agree completely, but your goals are similar or they intersect at some point, even if they seem to be at odds with you at other points, I think it's a mistake to put up walls. I think the best thing to do is to try to find commonality, to try to find a mutually beneficial way to proceed. Anyway, this is Lois's idea. Of course, the general, her father, which this is bizarre, thinks you just torture the guy, just torture him, psychological torture, physical torture, whatever. And Superman says, I don't think we should do that. And the general basically says, well, it doesn't matter what you think. I'm the military, tough cookies. But my thought about that is Superman would never work with a military or any organization that tortures or that does other things that are not morally right. He would be like, yeah, no, I'm not working with you. I'm not going to have a relationship with that. Why they would depict him as being sort of in bed with a military that says, hey, yeah, we torture and we're proud of it. Superman would never do that. So I don't know. We'll have to see if going forward he makes a bigger stink and causes the military to change, but I doubt that's going to happen. So his relationship there will always make, no sense to me, or it will make little sense to me. Anyway, Jonathan decides to go into the RV by himself to poke around when Lois takes a break. And he accidentally discovers some weaponry in there by accidentally opening the armory in the RV. And the machine recognizes, the AI in the RV recognizes that requires authorization of an authorized person and asks him to ID himself. And he says, he's Jonathan Kent, but he's not on the list. So the RV goes into lockdown and it's about to kill him. And he's pounding on the door trying to get out. He gets Lois's attention. Lois can't get him out. She calls Superman and he flies back from the military base and bursts into the RV and covers Jonathan just in time for the guns inside the RV to fire at him. It was a cool moment the way they executed it. But yeah, Lois was freaked out at this point, and she read Jonathan the riot act about, going into the trailer by himself and all that. And it was very cutting. She cut him down quite a lot. And yeah, I think this is why she's seeing the therapist. She kind of freaked out. So yeah, she needed a therapist after that. It was very traumatic. Then we cut back to the Lana Lang family. And we learned that Lana kept something from her husband. He's walking down the street, I guess, or shows up to see Lana at work. And Leslie Lar says hello to him and says, oh, we were so sorry when you turned down our offer of a job. He's like, what? Like he plays along, but inside he's like, huh? So he's not happy because Lana didn't tell him about any job. She just spoke for him and said he didn't want it. Now, I'm not sure why we care that took place, but there it is. They bring that up. Then we go back to the interrogation of John Henry. And there's a couple of military guys there with the general and Superman. And I guess these military guys all have top secret clearance, because other than that, they wouldn't be informed about a guy from a different world on the Earth with advanced tech and so forth and so on. So I guess they all have top clearance. I don't know why I brought that up. They don't mention that they do, but you have to assume that they do. But you'd think they would mention it. Anyway, small point. But eventually they decide, okay, he's not going to talk. We're going to take him back to his cell. And these two guys are escorting him back. And one guy wants to take him one place. The other guy says, no, he's supposed to go to his cell. And the one guy says, well, we're not doing that. And there's a confrontation, and he rages out and pummels the guy. And it becomes apparent that he's got superpowers, either because he's Kryptonian or he's on XK. So that's not good, because he's obviously with Edge and is not a good guy, but he's infiltrated the good guys. Next, we go back to Lois, who is still with her therapist, and she's talking about how she had a miscarriage. Now, again, this is something that never came up in regular superhero lore, Superman lore, I should say, because Superman never had kids. The closest they got to that was Superman Returns, where there was a kid and we didn't really know well, we knew at the end, but it wasn't acknowledged in the dialogue or whatever who the father was. Anyway, she had this miscarriage and she blames herself because she never stopped working. She never stopped pushing herself, and she feels like she harmed the pregnancy and lost the baby because of it. And it turns out it would have been a girl, and that would have been born after the boys. So the therapist tries to explain to her, no, it's not your fault. You don't have, when you're pregnant, it's, unless you have a high risk pregnancy, it's okay to work and exercise. And she says, have sex, which I thought was interesting because that doesn't come up in superhero shows. They don't say have sex. So I don't know. Just thought it was interesting that they brought up having sex on a superhero show. And then I thought, imagine having sex with Superman, or for that matter, well, Supergirl, it would be different, but maybe not. Just imagine getting super. Like, what? How does that work? Like, what? How does he not, like, harm her, especially at a certain part in the process? Okay, get that out of your head. Okay, I'm gonna get that out of my head too. Okay, now we go over again to the Lang household, where young Sarah Lang, or whatever the last name is now that the mother is married, is trying to pull off an audition to get into a good music school. And suddenly we're watching Riverdale again. Like we have been so many times in this show where they're just covering the drama of the kids. I don't care. Now, I watch Riverdale, and it's about high school kids, and there's drama, and there's all kinds of things, and I enjoy it. I watch that show. But this is supposed to be a Superman show. I don't want them spending time farting around with whether or not this girl's audition goes well. Like, I don't care. I don't care about how they brought Jordan in to be her support, and that it's a bonding thing for them, and that they might end up dating. I don't care. I don't care. Leave that out. Give me more Superman. Anyway, back to the base. This Kryptonian or ex-Kryptonite powered guy is trying to take John somewhere other than where he's supposed to take him. And John manages to, on the sly, activate the base alarm and set off the alarm so that everyone is alerted to what's going on. And Superman gets ready to go down to that level of the base and handle stuff. And the general's like, oh, hey, you can't go down there. Because we have all kinds of kryptonite down there that we're using to develop weapons. And you shouldn't go down there. And I'm thinking, okay, it's not like Superman didn't already know that, because he knows they have kryptonite bullets. So, he's obviously not stupid. He knows they're developing kryptonite weapons, or that they already have other kryptonite weapons as well. But again, why would he work with this organization? Like, he must have been thinking, what the hell? Why do you have this stuff? And, the general sort of tries to explain it later. Well, it's not anything I'd ever plan to use. It's just in case you go rogue. And Superman's like, don't lie to me. But, again, why would you work with these people? Why wouldn't you be like, I don't know. Because the other side of that argument is, yeah, well, what if he does go rogue? And Superman has a whole lot of integrity, so he must also be thinking, what if something happens and I'm compromised? And they do have to, like, what would they do, But the flip side of that is, what if I'm not going rogue and they're doing something wrong and I'm trying to stop them, but they have kryptonite and could stop me from stopping them? So it's a conundrum, and I just wish they hadn't introduced it, because I don't like the conundrum, and it doesn't need to be in the show. Anyway, moving along. Superman does in fact go down there, and he winds up having a crazy fight with this other superpowered guy who is using a kryptonite gas against him while wearing a mask. But it doesn't completely incapacitate Superman. It seemed like it weakened him and knocked him back, but he was still able to function. It wasn't like, he was laid flat like he was by the red sun the episode before, or like Superman has been in other episodes when kryptonite's been present. He was just weak. I guess that sort of goes along with what happened in Batman v Superman. But he's still able to kind of fight. I guess he just wasn't as strong, but the other guy was, because he wasn't inhaling the gas, but then Superman rips the mask off of him, so he ends up inhaling it as well. So they're having this fight. It was just brought up like a weird question, like, how exactly does kryptonite work? And is it different if it's gas form? I mean, I imagine it is, as would anything be different in gas form, in terms of how you absorb it. But anyway, the fight ends because John shows up and nails the guy with a kryptonite blade, and then almost uses it on Superman, but Lois talks him out of it. So I guess last time when I said, "Wow, this threat's been neutralized," no, it hasn't been. I also said he's going to be back, but I thought he would be in jail for a while, or whatever, locked up, and that there wouldn't be a confrontation for a couple weeks. But yeah, there was a confrontation. Anyway, another thing that the general ends up explaining in this episode is that gas wasn't designed to kill you. It was designed to weaken you so that conventional weapons could work. So I guess that's what explains why he wasn't completely weakened by it. But as it was going on, I'm like, what? Anyway, at some point, it's brought up that what's being done, or what might be happening, is some sort of alien sentience transfer, and that it's this that's bringing about these, like, I guess that they're saying that that's what Edge is trying to do, make it so we can transfer alien consciousnesses into humans, but at the same time empower them with X-Krypton. So maybe both is happening at the same time. I don't know. It's just very strange. I'm thinking we'll find out more about that in future episodes. Now, we're going to go back to the title of this episode, which is Holding the Wrench, because there's a scene between Jonathan and Lois where they both talk about how they can't always do anything. They can't help. They're the weak ones. And Lois has to talk to him and explain to him that, you know what, I'm like you. I know what you're talking about. I'm always the one that has to be in the supporting role. I'm always powerless to really do anything, too. But you have to remember that we're important as well. That while the stronger people are over there, fixing what's broken, we're the ones holding the wrench. And we're an important part of their ability to help people. So I thought it was a great scene and a great metaphor, and I like the concept of holding the wrench. That, everybody matters when you're working together, even if you're just the guy holding the wrench. So anyway, I thought it was a good theme that they worked in. You don't see a lot of that on the other CW shows, and it could use more. Now, I want to say this. I really like the John Henry character. I think this character has a lot of heart. He's been through a lot of pain, and he's conflicted. And that was apparent in this episode and the last episode. In this episode, he ends up going free. They give him back his RV, and he says, I don't know where I'm going to go for now. I'm just worried about what's coming. But I'm going to get on the road and, I don't know, contemplate what I'm going to do next. And I just thought, it was a good moment when he's explaining this to Lois. He says, there's someone I want to tell this to, but you're not her. You only look like her. And I just think it's a good character. It's a well-constructed character. I mean, obviously they're taking it off of a character that already existed, but I think they're doing good things with it. He's not just a black hat, right? He's not just a strictly evil character like Morgan Edge, who apparently is just out for himself because he's a bastard. This character has issues with Superman, but it's from a place of real pain, and he's conflicted. He wants to be, I shouldn't say he wants to be good. He is good. He wants to be a force for good, to ensure that good wins. But he has some methodologies that are a little hard edge, and that might constitute him sort of barking up the wrong tree towards achieving his goal. So that's a multi-layered character. That's good writing. I'm glad for this character, and I want to see more of it. As a matter of fact, another thing that demonstrates this is he instructed the computer to call him John. He says, "Stop calling me Captain Luthor." So he sort of ditches that part of himself that was living under a false identity and just wants to exist as John. So I think that's a good sign that maybe he's coming around to the fact that he can trust the Kents and trust Superman, in a sort of indirect way. He's sort of shedding the artifice of the life he was living and the course that he was pursuing. It indicates a change of course, or it complements a change of course. So I think that's good, because I want to see him work with Superman and all of that, not against them, in his pursuit of protecting the world from rogue super people or bad super people. So, like I said, I very much liked this episode. I'm looking forward to the next episode, and once that airs, I will be back with a review. For now, I take my leave, and I say, as always, peace and long life.